Are you a scaling SaaS founder?
Ready to make the leap from leading a team to leading an organization? Join us each week as we refill your think tank with actionable tips and strategies from great business minds you know and those who don't know yet. This is SaaS Fuel with your host, 5-time entrepreneur, SaaS founder, and globetrotting adventurer, Jeff Maines.
Welcome back to the SaaS Fuel podcast, where outcome focus is like hunting for coconuts. You're not climbing the tree for the view, you're there for the prize. I'm your host, Jeff Maines. I help B2B SaaS founders like you grow from traction to scale. Here, growth is more than just numbers. It's about crafting a future-proof company, premium valuation, and leaders who build a business of significance while living epic, adventurous lives. I'm back from Fiji this week and only briefly because headed out to SaaStr here in just a few minutes. But really excited to be back. It's an incredible time to get away and connect. Some people will have events in their lives and they'll get tattoos to commemorate them and things like that. I didn't do that, but I will tell you the experiences there and just the whole time and the people. Fiji is absolutely tattooed on my soul, and it was something that was it was a life changing experience, and just a great time not only of relaxation and strategy and planning and people and relationships, but just of really just reconnecting and scuba diving was pretty awesome. So it was a great time, but it is something that I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. Absolutely. So as we get back into the swing of business, was thinking about travel and coming back here and now headed out to SaaStr and thinking about the steps versus the destination. And it's something that I think we do in business probably too much is focus too much on the steps instead of the destination. And it's really easy, I think, to get lost in the process. But when we shift the focus to the outcome, does it unlock new levels of success? And I think it does. And in my experience, that's absolutely true. So today, really talking about outcome over path. And by that, I mean focusing on outcomes rather than a rigid path to get to that outcome. And that seems a little bit counterintuitive because it's like, okay, if we're trying to get to a destination, then there has to be a road, right? But yeah, I think counterintuitive can be good. It can empower your team to pivot, to adapt, to reach goals faster and more efficiently. So let's take a minute and think a little bit differently about success and not necessarily a prescriptive path. So you've probably been there working with the detailed plan, following every step meticulously because a lot of us as leaders are like planners and like here it is and yeah, I can see it. The vision is there, it's close, it's right in front of us. And then we realize that we become so fixated on the process that we've lost sight of the bigger picture. And this happened to me especially early on. I saw the way. I had absolute clarity on where we were going. I knew the way. I'd done the thing and now I'm hiring somebody else to do the thing and building out a team. And they had the audacity to do it wrong. Have you ever felt that? Yeah, it wasn't wrong. It just wasn't the right way. And by that, I mean, it wasn't my way. It's so dumb, right? But we've probably all been there at one time or another. And if you haven't, then a little more time in leadership and you'll find yourself there and you can laugh at yourself too, because I do all the time. So I've learned a few things along the way, but this happens a lot in business. Leaders and teams become overly attached to a specific plan or path, thinking it's the only way to reach the desired goal. And then the unexpected happens, or the plan doesn't work as anticipated, progress stalls, and it creates frustration, a bunch of wasted effort, and often missed opportunities. And I'd be frustrated. I'm like, why didn't you just go around the obstacle? And they're like, because this is how you said to do it. And they're like, I guess I had that coming, didn't I? And the question is, how can we shift our mindset from focusing solely on the path to prioritizing the desired outcomes? And so, yeah, I've transformed over the years. And so here's three ways that I think about this now that I didn't necessarily early on. The first is really embracing flexibility. And it's one of the key strengths of an entrepreneurial organization is just that flexibility and agility. But then, we get into that thing of it has to be this way because it's my way and because, I thought of it and this is how we've done it. We can't do it another way, but really embracing flexibility. So when we focus on the outcome, we're able to be flexible in how we get there. So if one strategy doesn't work, then you pivot and experiment with some new approaches. Or you bring somebody else in and they go, hey, I see we're doing it this way. What if we do something different over here? And it allows you to really adapt to challenges, market shifts, unforeseen circumstances without losing momentum. And I think that's one of the key things that held us back years ago was really so focused on the path that we'd hit an obstacle and there wasn't flexibility to the how, and so the team would lose momentum. The second is really encouraging innovation. So encouraging people to do things in new and different ways, not just following the prescribed path or not just following the right way because it's the way that we do things. But focusing on the outcome opens up the space for creativity and innovation. And a lot of the people we hire, that's why we hire them. That's why they join an entrepreneurial organization, is because they want to have that creativity and innovation and put that to work. And so we want to encourage that instead of crush it. So instead of being confined to a rigid process, your team can brainstorm new ideas, take calculated risks, and explore alternative paths to reach the same goal. The goal and the outcome, that's fixed. How we get there, that's flexible. And by being that flexible, it can leads to breakthroughs that wouldn't have been possible by just following a single predetermined route or doing things, my way. And the third, and I think this is just a huge benefit, is reduce stress and increase efficiency. Both of those are really good things. There's enough stress on the entrepreneurial journey without adding to it. So when you're not glued to a single path, it reduces the pressure of making every step perfect. Energy shifts from managing processes to making progress. That's what we ought to be managing anyway. That mindset leads to a more efficient workflow where every action is evaluated by how well it moves you toward the end goal, not by how closely it follows a prescribed specific plan. So focusing on outcomes over a rigid path opens up flexibility, fosters innovation with your team, and increases efficiency, lowers stress. That's a really, really big one because we keep moving. We're measuring progress. We're celebrating that progress. And by keeping your eyes on the end result, you can adapt quickly and make better decisions when challenges arise instead of trying to scramble and find a solution. Our expert last week was Brenda Viola, award winning news anchor and author on a mission to help leaders reclaim joy, overcome burnout, and create thriving workplaces. We talked about how culture drives communication, culture clash or collaboration, and reclaiming joy in work. She even put me in the hot seat with culture and communication style questions. It was a lot of fun and incredibly informative. And then our founder last Tuesday was Stephen Webster, CEO and founder of Ascensi, leading technology in motion capture and human movement recognition. Great conversation about tech ahead of its time, curiosity, exploration, and focusing on underserved markets that others ignore. One of the most impactful quotes, and I said this last episode as well, was never mistake a clear vision for a short distance. I mean, that's like mind blowing right there. Never mistake a clear vision for short distance. Such a great episode. If you missed either one of those, go back and give them a listen. Well, it is Saaim time. My guest today is Saaim Khan, founder and principal consultant at Cyber Matters. With over 20 years in IT and cybersecurity, his journey has been anything but ordinary. He's a five-time founder, yep, five times, who initially built his career in software development and marketing before diving into cybersecurity. His multidimensional skill set is one of the things that I find most valuable about this conversation and him in general. Though some might just call it not being able to make up his mind between business and technology, but hey, why choose, right? His experience in both worlds brings a unique perspective, allowing him to navigate both technical and corporate arenas with ease, providing a holistic business wide outcomes that go way beyond mere technical fixes. So, welcome the most business savvy CISM I know, Saaim Khan. Hey, Saaim, welcome to SaaS Fuel.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jeff. Pleasure to be here.
Can you share your journey from software development to marketing to founding Cyber Matters? What inspired you to get into cybersecurity?
I wish there was a inspiring story, but there really isn't. So you got the intro right in terms of I started off as a software developer, then realized I could use my flair for public speaking and being a bit dramatic, being the drama queen that I am, use that to kind of get into technology marketing. And when I moved to Australia in 2009, I was looking to get a part-time job in a corporate setting. And there was this role for a IT project manager who could also help maintain the company's WordPress website. That company turned out to be a cybersecurity company. So, as much as I would love to say that it was a natural evolution and I went from IT to IT security to cybersecurity, not really. As an international grad student in Sydney, this was an opportunity, and I was like, sure, I can maintain a website. And incidentally, I was only applying for those jobs because I was trying to buck up a buddy of mine who had lost his part-time gig, and I was kind of showing him, hey, this is how you write a cover letter, this is how you write a job application. And then I was like, look, let me show you. And I saw this and I applied for it. So if anything, I got to thank that buddy of mine to, who was kind of like the impetus for me to get into this. So I wish there was a glamorous story, Jeff, but there really isn't.
That's a pretty good story, though. I like that. I mean, that one thing changed the trajectory of your career. That's a very cool thing.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think it will be great for me to call out a couple of people without whom I wouldn't be here before Cyber Matters even began. So the first person I really want to give a shout out to is a lovely gentleman called Louis Abdullah. So he was the first boss I had. He was the owner of the company where I ended up maintaining their WordPress website. And my initial plan was to just finish my grad degree, get some work experience while I'm in Australia, and then skedaddle back to Pakistan and go back to what I was doing before, which was technology consulting in the fintech sector or the financial services sector. He was quite adamant that you should stick around. Australia is a great place, really sold the message to me. And I bought in, and 15 years later, I'm right here. And it's really a big thanks to him. And the second person I really want to give a shout out to is another gentleman, also who I met at this company by the name of Mani Amini. So Mani came from a governance, risk, and compliance background from his home country of Iran. And when he joined the company where I was at, he was the one who introduced me to governance, risk, and compliance. And without him, I'd still be doing IT project management with a bit of marketing in the cybersecurity space. So these two people were quite instrumental in pushing me towards the trajectory that led me to be where I am. So, you got to give credit where it's due.
Absolutely. And that's so important is having those people in your life, being able to look back and see that and how they've provided that input, that guidance, the ideas, the inspiration, the pushing. Maybe when you were thinking I'm going to go back, like, no, you got to stay here. This is going to be great. And then again, another thing that just changed your life.
100%. And incidentally, I feel that the people who are your day ones will always be in your life, even if their roles change. So, 15 years ago, Mani and I were employees in a company that Louis ran. And today, both Mani and I are business owners who talk about collaboration, who talk about working together in the cybersecurity space. There's another great gentleman who I think is worth a mention. His name is Shahbaz Rashid. So Shahbaz actually joined the same company. It's like everything just happened from here. So you know how you have the back in the day, the PayPal mob, like the people who made PayPal and then went and formed eBay and so on and so forth. It's just like this is like the CS mob where the company was called CS, not to be confused with CrowdStrike. Content Security was the name of the company, and basically Shabazz used to work in sales, and now Shabazz is a business owner as well, and we collaborate. So it's been a journey for everybody. So I think remembering your day ones and sticking around with them and seeing how your collaboration will change over time, I think that's really important. Uh, on a more philosophical note, maybe this is my personal bias. I do feel that maybe after the age of 2025, you don't really make friends, you just make connections. But people who you've kind of met in your, up until your mid 20s, there's still a couple of slots left for, lifelong friends, if you will. And I'm sure there are exceptions, but I think a lot of the people that I end up working with and collaborating with are just friends from, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 25 years ago. So I think that also has some kind of direct impact. If that's my belief.
Yeah. Well, certainly them having impact, and then we can pay that forward and do that for other people as well, which is really, really cool. Just how that works, and they've poured into you, and now you're doing that, and now Cyber Matters is changing the lives of other people, and that could be your clients, your employees, across the board.
100%. And look, on the subject of Cyber Matters, the whole reason for its existence, or the reason I decided to, and because this is also a funny story, it's Cyber Matters this is take two. So there was a take one when I used to work as a one-man band, if you will, and
Okay.
I built up a little mini practice around 2017, 2018, and then I met an existing business which was transitioning from being a technology reseller into being a consulting firm. So in a I guess manner of principle, it was almost like an acquisition of what my initial draft of what Cyber Matters was. Working there for a couple of years, I still felt the heartstrings being tugged towards entrepreneurship and kind of going my own way. I do feel that once you get the taste of being your own boss and you get the taste of running things in a your own way, it's very difficult to go back into working for somebody else. So
Yes.
I think that was something that was always then kind of on the background. So then this is take two. And the reason I went back to this and formed Cyber Matters is because I've been working in technology since 1999. And over the last, 25, 26 years, I have, taken lessons. I have seen the way consulting's been delivered. And there's always been something where I would think to myself, if I was going to do it, I wouldn't do it this way, or this could have been done better, or this could have been different. So now this is the opportunity. This is my canvas. So everything that we do is a culmination of those experiences, and that's resulted in the service offerings that we have today. For example, we don't talk about making an exhaustive list of deliverables. What we talk about are the specific outcomes that the client wants to hit. And those outcomes are the actual deliverables that we'll work towards. Now, if that results in 5 documents or 15, that shouldn't matter. What matters is if the outcome is achieved. So I know it sounds very vague, but that is kind of the guiding philosophy.
And that's really smart to take it from the outcomes and then figure out, what is it that we need to deliver to give them the outcome that they want. And
Absolutely.
I think your background is really unique in having the software development and having the marketing. A lot of times you don't see that, and then the entrepreneurship on top of that. And so how is like a multi-dimensional skill set, in business and technology both combined? How has that enabled you to provide more holistic outcomes for your clients?
I think the first thing to say here is I've always looked at what's in it for the customer, and what's in it, actually more than what's in it, to borrow something from Simon Sinek, go back to the why.
Sure.
And like, for example, a lot of what we do day in, day out is compliance related projects in security, ISO or SOC 2 or whatever. The first question I always ask is, why do you want to do this? What's brought you here?
Yeah.
And I think that question itself has been a big success factor in being able to, grow when I used to work for somebody else, and now even in my own business. having the being able to take the pulse of why the customer wants to do what they want to do, and using that as the basis for describing everything. That's one core, I guess, quality or trait that I've developed over the years. And what that allows me, and then ultimately what that allows us as a company to do, is I'm not here to, for example, let's suppose, Jeff, you were a prospect we were talking to about SOC 2 compliance.
Sure.
I don't approach it from the perspective of I need to go sell SOC 2 compliance services to Jeff. I'm actually very curious to know, why is Jeff interested in SOC 2? And the second thing is, because I've had the good fortune of being in tech and then in marketing, I don't talk in jargon. It's not about, oh, you want to hit your compliance outcomes. My question will be, why are we here, Jeff? And you would then maybe say, I would like to get SOC 2 compliance. And I would ask you why. Well, because apparently my business needs to get SOC 2 compliance, to which I will again ask why.
Why?
And then keep asking why till I get to a trigger emotion. And the trigger emotion will be most likely, you need to make more money. The money that you are expecting to make is tied to getting this compliance outcome.
Yep.
There is a regulator or an external party which is exerting pressure on you to get this. Because let's be real, no one out of the goodness of their heart or out of this strong innate desire wants to go down a compliance-based project. They don't.
Exactly.
There's always a driver. And my job is to find out why and what that driver is. And everything that we do from that point forward needs to be tied back to that driver. So I think that is, I guess, my unique approach, or I don't think it's unique. I just think it's common sense. I think that is the most important thing which people don't ask. Why are we doing this? What's going back to?
It's a really, really big one.
It is. And 100%. It goes back to, because let's not talk about cyber for a sec. So Jeff Maines does a lot of business coaching, right? And in your experience, you will come across a multitude of business owners.
Of course.
But what you will start seeing are similarities in terms of the journey, in terms of the mindset, in terms of the initial mental roadblocks. And your job is to remove those roadblocks so that they can propel forward.
Right.
It's the same approach in everything. When we speak to somebody who's starting off their cybersecurity journey, we can start seeing the trends. We can start saying, yep, they're going to do this now, or this is the blocker, or they'll be worried about money. And ultimately, how I like to think about what Cyber Matters does at its core is, our job is to do one of two things: contribute towards the growth of the company, or protect the trajectory of growth that the company is already on. That is what cybersecurity means from a business perspective. Let's not confuse it with anything else. Businesses exist to make a commercial profit, and they do that by following a mission which is tied to their industry or domain or whatever markets they serve, right?
Yes.
But if the business is not making money, then nothing else is important, unless it's a not-for-profit, which is a different kettle of fish.
Right.
But for most businesses, you need to make some revenue, and you need to be able to afford your costs and make a profit so that you can pay everybody. But if you don't do that, then everything cyber, public relations, marketing, community engagement, none of that matters, because you're not making money. So how will you be enabled to do anything? So cybersecurity and all of these other things I've mentioned should always have this innate tie back to, how is this helping the company's mission forward? Are we bringing in new business? Are we helping the company break into new markets? Are we launching an initiative which is going to be the big differentiator between us and our competitors? That is what cybersecurity can do for a company. And sometimes it can do the complete opposite. So
Sure.
That is how consultants and that is how cybersecurity advisors need to be thinking. And once again, this is, as you might tell, I'm fairly passionate about this. And, the whole going back to the reason why I started Cyber Matters, this crazy guy needed a platform to be able to do all of these things. So Cyber Matters is my soapbox where I'm the crazy person who's talking about all these things. Sometimes I make a lot of sense, and most of the time I don't. But I'm quite comfortable with myself in doing that. That's okay.
That's good. I think more companies should think about it that way, and very very few cybersecurity companies or audit firms, they certainly don't talk that way. I don't know if they ever think that way. Maybe they do, but they certainly don't pitch that way. It's all about getting the certification, and we're the best, and we've got a gazillion years of experience, and it's all about the thing. It's not about what the goal is. Why do you want the certification? And there's always a driver. Nobody signs up for that without some driver. And a lot of times it is revenue based. It's they have a client that requires it, or they want to go win business. And that's one of the things that they have to have. And I think last time we talked, you mentioned kind of baseline standard, SOC 2, ISO. How do companies go beyond treating those as just a simple checkbox exercise to get to that next level and truly understand and implement the purpose behind them?
I wish it was a fairly I could explain it in a way that would be, actually I can't. Bear with the crazy person as I piece this through in my head.
Go ahead.
So absolutely 100% SOC 2, ISO 27001, and then NIST cybersecurity framework. These are all baseline security standards and frameworks to begin with, because they will give you what you should be doing as a bare minimum. However, over time, everything becomes commoditized. And as a consequence, the compliance of these things also becomes commoditized into a checkbox exercise or a tick box exercise, if you will. However, if you take the concept of physical well-being as an analogy, which I will use to explain or attempt to explain this, it's like going to the gym. You should go to the gym because you should exercise, and the rationale is your well-being is most important. So therefore, you need to contribute to the well-being by doing some kind of physical exertion in the form of cardio, weights, whatever.
Right.
So you could follow a regimen, and the bare bones regimen is you should do 5 different weightlifting exercises, at least 3 sets of 10, and you should do 10 minutes on the treadmill, right? Once you start doing this, it becomes a tick box exercise. Yep, it's Tuesday. It's time to go to the gym. I'm going to do my circuit. It will take me 10 minutes, and then I'm going to do 20 minutes of cardio, 30 minutes, I'm in and out. But what happens over time is once you start doing this, you will start inherently thinking about what should we do next? What should we do next? What should we do next? At least that's the theory. However, if you go to the gym, you do your 5 unique exercises with those 3 sets of 10, but you're barely lifting more than 10-pound weights. And you are basically doing a snail's pace on the treadmill. Yes, you are spending 30 minutes in the gym, but it's doing absolutely nothing for you. So that's what the tick box approach will yield. Yes, you are complying with everything, but you are also not really doing it because your heart's not in it. But what we hope to achieve with getting the companies that we have into these compliance programs is to start thinking about what's next, what's the benefit. And I'll give you an example of that. One of the companies we work with has been using the ISO framework to really drive security awareness, but not for general staff, for developers. And everything I'm saying is not new. This is stuff that's been around for a while. And I'm sure there are a lot of people in the cybersecurity community who will basically, listen to this and say, yeah, he's kind of Captain Obvious. He's like, we all know this. But not a lot of non-cyber people do this, so it's great when they do this, which is they've been training software their software developers and their engineering teams on how to write better code, how to write how to architect better and things like that. But the content that they're using is not your generic software development security awareness courses. They are using the results of their last 5 cybersecurity testing activities, so a pen test or a vulnerability assessment, and they're using those findings as the training content. And the driver is, why have we been getting the same findings for the last 2 years? Are you guys not paying attention? Or is this a systemic issue? Or is this an issue that's relating to something to do with things outside our control? I mean, what gives? Why are we getting the same issues? But what that does is it sensitizes people. And that is one of the things that cybersecurity can do for you. It sensitizes you to the actual meaning of data loss, of data theft. It's one thing to quote stats of the Verizon data breach report that gets published every year. It's another thing to actually have lived through identity theft or having your data taken without your permission. Makes it real. And when you go through that, that's when you start realizing the benefits of these frameworks and you start doing them in earnest. So going back to our gym analogy, we could be doing the bare minimum, going to the gym, lifting 10-pound weights, snail space on the treadmill. But then we have our first panic attack, or we have our first heart-related issue, God forbid. But we have something like that, and that is a driver. Then we're going to the gym, we're watching our weight, we're counting those calories. So, and unfortunately, what I'm alluding to here is the reality, which is nobody cares about cybersecurity until they get impacted in a negative way.
Yep.
I wish people would be proactive. I wish people would see the benefit, but that's the reality. And no amount of marketing is going to change that. I do feel I'm going on a bit of a rant, so I'm going to stop here.
Oh, that's good. You differentiate your services in cybersecurity, and a lot of your focus is smaller SaaS and fintech companies. Why did you choose that, and how do you serve them uniquely?
The reason for choosing is empathy. Or if I'm being a bit facetious, misery loves company. So finding other companies who are in that initial stage. But the rationale behind selecting SaaS companies and a lot of SaaS companies in the financial services of the fintech space has been purely organic. And the organic growth has been, we started off working with 5 SaaS platforms. Those of those 5, one was in education and the other 4 were in fintech.
Okay.
As we worked with each of the 4 in financial services and in fintech, we realized the unique challenges that industry has. So we actually did a lot of research and started helping them grow and work towards solving those challenges. Because they liked the work that we did, the CTOs there introduced us to their peers who are CTOs in other SaaS fintech companies. And as a consequence, it just through the network effect, we started working more and more with SaaS companies in finance. From working with smaller companies, it's predominantly because as the people in cyber matters are very action oriented. We don't like talking about big ended strategies. We don't like presenting PowerPoints with pretty roadmaps. That's not us. We want to know what's the problem, what's the blocker, and here are 3 things I can think of on how we can solve this issue, so to speak. And let's get to it. Like, we're the consultants who like to roll up their sleeves and get into the thick of things rather than this methodological approach is going to solve your problem. We're not those people. We're the people about, yep, you need to switch that off, you need to switch that on, and you need to stay away from that moving forward. That's the kind of actionable advice. And we find that is being who we are, that resonates very well in that emerging and startup space. The other thing,
definitely.
and not to cast shade on any other industry demographic or organization size. We just don't want to work with the enterprise side of the. We just don't want to work with the enterprise side of town, only because of the politics and the bureaucracy that's involved. The
That makes sense.
need to present to multiple stakeholders and bring change management into it, and looking at those things like that. There was a time and place where I did that every day. And going back to the first question you asked me, how did Cyber Matters come to be? I don't want to be there. And by the way, there's a reason why it's the Fortune 500 and not the Fortune 5 million. There are 5 million smaller businesses that actually need help. So I don't want to go chase the 500 who probably have the big household brand names taking care of their security, and kudos to them. They can work together in that little ecosystem of theirs. I want to work with the masses. I want to work with people like myself, business owners, people who are doing this, who have a vision for building something, whether it's a goal of self-funding a lifestyle or building the next big thing. Those are the people that we gravitate towards, because we're people like that as well. So that's why we work with who we work with, Jeff.
And you have a lot more impact there, I think, too, because you're not talking about theory and frameworks and here's this giant thing. It's go do this, and you're seeing immediate impact. Ready to future-proof your company and scale to new heights? Dive into the ultimate resource designed specifically for B2B SaaS founders and C-suite executives. Champion Leadership Group gives you an unfair advantage in scaling up revenue and outwitting competitors. Imagine solving your biggest scaling headaches and hitting 5, 10, 20 million ARR and beyond with ease. We take away the guesswork and the grunt work and replace it with framework by supporting you with our on-demand fractional C-suite team, a powerful operating system built into software, and a thriving community of fellow scaling founders. That's how we make it happen. If you're stuck at your current revenue level, this is your ticket out. If you feel like the world's best kept secret, we amplify your success. And hey, if you're already crushing it, but maybe too busy to breathe, we got your back. We'll free up 20% of your time in the first month. Now is the time to upgrade from traction to scale. If you're ready to work smarter and not just grind harder, schedule a 10-minute growth brainstorm. It's free, and we will pinpoint the number one thing blocking revenue. Visit championleadership.com, where leaders evolve and companies transform. And you get that feedback, and you're actually doing things, doing and implementing and making things happen. And it's so much more fun.
It is a lot more fun. The joy of actually seeing the direct impact of your actions in a customer being able to close a sale, in the customer being able to negotiate a better deal, that is where we feel that it is, time well spent in driving an outcome for them. With the larger end of town, the impact is not so direct. And people move, people go, people change roles. So a lot of the time, there's so much bureaucracy that's involved with the larger end of town that there's a lot of people who may enjoy that, but not me.
I don't know if enjoy is the right word. There's a lot of people that milk that for a lot of money, and long projects that don't really do a lot, which is unfortunate.
My philosophy is, that's another thing, right? Actually, that's a really good point. If we can dive into that. One of my biggest failings as a consultant in the corporate sector was my conservatism in building out scopes of work. If something's going to take me 2 days, I'm going to write down 2 days. And I'll probably put in a half a day buffer in case something happens. That's just good risk management. Sure. Or I would assume that my project manager is going to add the buffer time, as project managers often do. If something's going to take me 2 days, I'm not going to code 5 days. Right. That's just not honest in my book. And consequently, I've been at loggerheads with a lot of people about this over the years, where I've worked in different companies on, yes, you can do this in 2 days. That's fantastic. But this is an opportunity where we know the customer's budget is equivalent to 5 days of services. Like, yep, right. I'm sure they have money to spend. I just don't want all of it. I just want it for the work I think we can do for them. And I am very confident that if we are honest and direct and transparent in our scoping of exercises, they will come back for a repeat engagement.
Absolutely. That's how you get those referrals as well.
100%.
Yeah.
I think at this point, not to flex, but we don't have salespeople. Our entire growth over the last 3.5 years has been through organic referrals and repeat business from customers. I believe in making enough profit, which is capable of providing commercial cover to me as a company, and is a fair price for the customer. And the scope is very clear, and there's no confusion on what needs to be done. Off the back of that, I'm sure, and this has happened with us multiple times, not in the ones and twos, but in the multiple dozens of times where customers have come back and said, that project was so great. We have another project. It's a bit smaller or it's a bit larger, and we'd love you to take this on.
That's
And
great.
we're happy to take that on. It is better to make a consistent amount of profit in a sustained way than to make high margin. So, I mean, it's very difficult to peg this into a pigeonhole, if you will, but I'd rather make I'd rather make small amounts of profit sustained over time than make one deal where I have fleeced the customer and made a huge profit, but I've effectively ripped them off.
Yeah. For a lot of smaller companies, security is something that's maybe an afterthought or something that, I'll do later, and they don't really think about it early enough or at the beginning. What are the benefits of that, or how should companies be thinking, or how can they build with security or build with that in mind from the very beginning?
I think that's a really good point, Jeff. And it's not hard to build security from day one. Ultimately, security in our sense of the word is the security of your data, and your data exists in purely digital forms. So from day one, you can build some good habits. You can build some frameworks. Oh, actually, frameworks is the wrong word. You can build certain systems that will scale as you grow. For example, less is more. So instead of buying technology which appeals to you because, and in today's day and age, you have a lot of that in sense of you've got an AI tool for this, you've got an AI tool for that, you've got some new system. So less is more. The first thing that a business owner needs to practice and learn from day one, and that is directly related to security, is restraint. So don't go signing up for random SaaS services. Do your due diligence and really ask yourself if you need it, because it's not about spending money or being frugal. It's about exposing your data to a new service, and you have no idea how they're hosting it. You have no idea where it's
Right.
hosted. That's number one. The second thing, which is kind of a complementing aspect, is pick an ecosystem, and that ecosystem should be where you live.
Yep.
For example, most companies choose either Google Workspaces or Microsoft 365 as their starting point.
Sure.
And somewhere along the line, they will make a switch. And that's also not a good idea. Pick one. And you should really be asking yourself to the point of, should we be looking at Microsoft because it will help us with Windows devices, with using Microsoft services and things like that. So picking an ecosystem is very important. If you're going to go down the path of, let's say, using MacBooks, then what should you be thinking? Should you be thinking Google Drive and Google Workspaces, or should you be thinking the Microsoft ecosystem? So it's very important. That's the second thing. The third thing is you need to think about concept of least privilege. And what that means is everybody in terms of access should have the minimum amount of access that they require, not the maximum amount. And the easiest way to do that is thinking about, shared drives, thinking about who needs to have access to what, and really organizing your information. You don't need to have OCD to do this. It could simply be, I take the same approach personally, is there is a closet. You do not open the closet, but that closet is meant for clothes. And all the clothes go in that closet, but we know that this is the clothes for the closet. And I take sometimes a similar approach to data. This is the folder. This is the folder that has all of a particular type of information. You don't have to like start labeling and things like that. Not just yet, and you don't need that. And lastly, think about data resiliency, which is actually not just data resiliency, systems resiliency, data and systems resiliency. So what I mean by that is, are you backing up your data? And there's an old adage, 3-2-1. You need to have at least three backup locations. And you should at least like 3 copies of your data in at least 2 locations and a cloud location. That should be a bare minimum, and in this day and age, it's not very hard to do that.
Right.
Right. A trip to your local Office Max or Office Works, as we call it here in Australia, you can get a $100 solution that will just solve that problem for you. And then lastly, systems resiliency is thinking not just about side question. Are we allowed to use brand names on this podcast?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. So a lot of businesses flock to HubSpot, especially because they've got that startup sweetheart pricing where you can get the HubSpot ecosystem for really cheap. You also need to think about that. What is that? What happens when the discount comes off, right? And also, are you so reliant on HubSpot that if HubSpot was ever to go down, you can't conduct sales anymore? So you need to start thinking about it from that perspective. So how do you have systems resiliency? And that does not mean that you go invest in a secondary CRM. Do you have the capability from day one to run your sales off an Excel sheet? When you're starting on day one, you do not need to have an enterprise levels customer relationship management software. You need a good Excel sheet, which you need to be in the habit of filling out every day or every week or whatever regimen you have. That is systems resiliency. So if you can run your business back to those basics, that means your systems have some kind of continuity built in. This may sound like really basic stuff, but if you start thinking about it, a lot of people would say like, yeah, that's basic. Try practicing.
Right. Do you do it? Oh, no. That's really basic. And we hear this a lot. You know, you say something and like, oh, yeah, I know. Well, are you doing it? No. Then it doesn't matter if you know. Yeah, it's really important to think about these things. And, you know, what would happen if that system goes down? What would we do? What happens if the CRM is unavailable for a few days? You know, is it something? Can we still function? Can we still sell? Can we still service our existing clients? And thinking about those, not things that we necessarily want to think about. That's not fun, but it is really important to think about what kind of resiliency do we have? What kind of backups do we have?
100%. And all of this is not complicated, but you got to really think about it. One thing that we always think about within Cyber Matters is if any of our software systems, like SaaS software that we use, goes down, do we have the ability to still operate our business? And that is what we test. Okay, let's assume that our CRM's down, our email systems are down. Do we actually have a copy of all of our customer contacts so we can call them? Or are we so reliant on email and our CRM that we don't have details of our customers? So, and when you start thinking like that, that is how you build security and resiliency from day one. So to answer that question that you asked me, is you build resiliency by actually thinking in terms of systems from day one. That is how you work. And it's got nothing to do with cybersecurity from the sounds of it, right? Because it really doesn't. Good cybersecurity is an outcome. That is, I guess, my big shtick or big, theory or big imparting thought, if you will. Good cybersecurity is an outcome. And that outcome is the result of your habits and your systems and your consistency. You do all those three things, cybersecurity is inevitable.
That's really good. And it's important to think about that. I remember we did, cybersecurity, incident response exercise, and it was the simulation was, email is down and Slack is down, and responding to an incident and kind of going through this process. And it was a really good exercise because one of the first things we figured out is, do we have everybody's cell phone number? Oh, well, that system's not available. So how do we get a hold of people? How do we even establish communication among the team to start dealing with this incident? And so it's that kind of thing, and just kind of thinking back of, where are the vulnerabilities? What are the things that we need to be thinking about, if something happens? And whether that's a breach, whether it's an attack, whether it is an update that goes bad and systems are down, or whatever happens, what is the impact going to be on our business, and how can we think about it now to make sure that those incidents don't affect us, or we minimize the impact of the incident.
100%. And when you mentioned the word vulnerability, a lot of the times, actually, here's like an open challenge, or like a try this. Take a look at the last 15 high-profile cybersecurity attacks. Take a look at how the attack happened.
Yeah.
90% of the time, it's been a lapse of human judgment.
Yep.
No technology, no systems being impacted, but in reality, it has been somebody clicked an email, somebody opened an attachment, somebody was a bit careless with their security settings or whatever. It comes down to a lapse in human judgment.
Yep.
And that kind of goes back to the same thing that I was saying: consistency, systems thinking, a bit holistic thinking, and then security is an outcome. Now, the example that you gave is fantastic. I've actually had a real life situation happen to me a few days ago. Our company is globally dispersed, so we have people in almost every continent, so to speak. And we had a new starter, and the new starter is based out of the Indian subcontinent. And one of the things we didn't realize is nobody remembered to get their landline number, their actual physical phone number, not their cell phone. We tried contacting them via WhatsApp, and for some reason, internet connectivity was down. So they could not. Their WhatsApp was just not connecting to the internet because they had no internet. And we were kind of stumped. We tried calling their cell phone, for some reason couldn't reach their cell phone, and it really made me think. And look, we're a cybersecurity company, and we made this mistake because we are humans at the end of the day as well. Sure. We make mistakes. So now, as a consequence, process need a phone number, like a cell phone number, a backup cell phone number, and a landline number that we should have on file at all times. So that if you want to get in touch, first phone, like main phone doesn't work, no problem. Backup phone doesn't work, no problem. Landline, work email, and a personal email address. We need to be able to also know what would be the best location to send them things in the mail. So these are all things which, once again, and this is maybe perhaps unique to us because we're a completely, like I said, like we're a remote first company. All of our teams all over the world. So that's why we have to think in terms like this. Maybe for other companies, this may be kind of the norm, but for us, it's not, right? So we have to think in those lines. The second thing is about the human judgment aspect of it. And in light of the recent global outage that we had with those two household names, I think everyone's focused on them. What nobody's talking about, or I haven't seen anyone talk about, this is ultimately a reflection. It's a mirror moment right now, where the mirror is in your face, and all of the companies that suffered, downtime. What have they been doing in terms of business continuity planning or business resilience? This is like an extremely rude but apparent wake-up call. Is 90% of the companies that have been impacted have put zero practical thought into their resiliency.
Yeah.
So Why, I don't know why we are bashing those two vendors. It makes no sense. Sure, hold them accountable. That's fine. You've got SLAs, whatever. But
Sure.
the actual issue is we, as a, once again, human judgment, right? Most organizations are not prepared for downtime. They are not.
Right. Yeah, that's true. So does security have to be expensive? If we're talking about, early stage companies, there's a million things that they need to spend money on, and security a lot of times gets pushed down. Is there like a $0 approach, or, a budget way to do this where we want that security, want to build in a way that's smart and build, with security in mind without spending a fortune?
100%. You do not need to spend money to get decent security, or at least baseline security. And we as a company are a practitioner of it as well. I'm going to give some advice, and obviously it's very important that to mention that, look, this is an approach that has worked for a lot of companies. It may not be like a approach for all, but think about it this way. We mentioned Microsoft 365 and Google. That provides you with a lot of email security settings that are built in, baked in. Spam, anti-spam, encryption, ensuring that you can send emails securely, encrypted end to end. You can do email filtering on, and you can do secure attachments, so on and so forth. So there are a lot of things available there. In today's day and age, you can utilize VPN technology. A lot of the VPNs, you don't necessarily need to get a premier VPN service. You can actually use, if, for example, you are a SaaS company and you're utilizing Microsoft Azure, or you're utilizing AWS, you can use VPN products that are part of that ecosystem.
Sure.
And most of these products come with a free tier, so you can use those. You could also use, for example, Cloudflare. Cloudflare offers zero trust network access for free. So you can actually create a private DNS server, which could be applied to all of the machines you work with. And you it's a VPN alternative approach. So everyone's connecting through that. And you can do mail filtering, you can do content filtering, you can have firewall rules, and you can set all of that up, and it's going to cost you nothing. It's almost like, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of stuff around this, is you can actually set up a business for under $100, right? Like,
Sure.
With incorporation costs aside or whatever, but domains cost $5 a year. Websites,
Right.
you're smart about it, your website hosting can be free. So you take that same $0 MVP approach. If you use, for example, Google Workspaces, document labeling and having policies based on certain documents and certain folders and of certain types, that is part of your basic Google Workspaces subscription. So you can do dynamic filtering on those labels. As soon as you apply a label of sensitive, it will make sure that that document cannot be shared. And these are
Right.
policies that are available in Google right now. I mean, if you're on the basic, what is it, I think $12 a month or $10 a month
Right.
per user package, it's available in that. And like I said, all of these tools that you're going to have to use, you can actually get fairly decent amount of security from them. So to answer the question, and I apologize for the long-winded answer, 100% yes, you can set up decent baseline security without spending too much money, or without spending any money.
Yeah. And it's helpful to think about that, and even free things, whether it is website scanners that are free. Looking at even for development, secure development practices, the OWASP top 10. That gets you. It's not 100%, but it's going to tell you what the biggest threats are in the market every year. What are the things that you need to be thinking about when you're coding, and
100%.
solve for those.
You can also use free, like there are free tools from OWASP that you can use. For example, if you don't want to spend big money on vulnerability scanning, you can use what's called the OWASP ZAP, which is a Z application proxy, and you can run web application scanning through that, and it'll give you it's not pretty, but it works. You can use a lot of security vendors provide free website scanning.
Yep.
If you are hosting your website on WordPress, there are a lot of free WordPress plugins you can use for WordPress security. If you are using Cloudflare, there's a lot of basic security tools that you can use for ensuring that your website is protected from DDoS, your attacks, or your website is protected from things like geofencing and from spam and things like that. These are available for free. In fact, fun fact actually, the Cyber Matters website is hosted on Cloudflare's Edge. And
Nice.
do you know how much that costs us? Zero. It costs us nothing. It is a static website, and there's no system running behind it. There's no sophistication behind it, and it's a fairly decent website. At least I think so. But like I said, it's secure. It's ephemeral, so there's nothing to hack, so to speak. And it costs me $0, or it costs us $0 as a business to run. And this is, it's available today. We have in recent times started investing a bit more on certain aspects of Cloudflare, but this is after being in business for 3, 4, 5 years that we can actually do this. But if you're starting out, Cloudflare, Google Workspaces, or Microsoft, and just exploring those two platforms alone will give you a fairly good leg up into building a decent security baseline for your business.
Outstanding. Well, where can people learn more about you and about Cyber Matters online?
Our website is cybermatters.io, and we are very, very transparent in what we do and what we offer. So if you want to know more about what we do, you can go to the website. In addition to that, you can search for Cyber Matters on LinkedIn. We have a LinkedIn page, and we post a lot of content from that. So that's those are the two ways that you can find us online. And on top of that, if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, you can search my name, and I generally post a bit about security here and there, mostly my own musings. So if people want to know more, our website's the first stop they can go to.
Outstanding. We'll make sure and link that in the show notes. And everybody should be following Cyber Matters and you on LinkedIn. Your posts are very, very good.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'm very mindful of what I post. So if it's not something I would read, I wouldn't post it. So I try to make sure that content is very useful and it's something that has relatability. So I appreciate you for saying that. Thank you so much.
Outstanding. Well, it's a great conversation today. Cybersecurity is super important. So I'm so glad that you're in that market and working with smaller companies, not just the enterprises. So thanks for being on SaaS Fuel.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate that. Thanks so much, Jeff.
Thanks again, Saaim, for coming on the show and sharing your journey and insights. I love it when guests bring a unique perspective and experience. Biz, tech, security savant, and 5-time founder. I mean, how awesome is that combo? You're not going to find that anywhere else. Well, you can learn more about Saaim and Cyber Matters at cybermatters.io. And be sure to follow him on LinkedIn as well. His content is on point. As always, all links, highlights, resources, and full show notes are available at saasfuel.com. And of course, check us out on YouTube as well. Full video episodes, video shorts, training, lots more out there for you as well. It's at Champion Leadership there on YouTube. Thought leaders share, and I'll bet you're one. Share this episode with the smartest person that you know. And, when they hear this, they'll know exactly why you shared it with them. So there you go. Everyone who shares this week gets a mystery button machine. Hey, press the button once and something wild happens. Maybe it plays Eye the Tiger at full volume. I don't know. Maybe it's Survivor. Maybe it's Katy Perry. Or maybe it releases a cloud of bubbles. Who knows? It's always a party when you're brave enough to press the button on your magic button machine. But join us Thursday on our SaaS Fuel Expert Series, where my guest is Dr. Chris Fusey, author and leadership expert. We'll be talking about his new book called Liminal Space, Reshaping Leadership and Followership, and our roles as both leaders and followers. Are we both? I don't know. Should we be? We'll find out on this episode when we talk with Chris. And the next Tuesday, we have founder Dave Dittenberg, founder and CEO of BYOD. 30-year restaurant veteran who's leveraging AI and SaaS to solve real-time operational challenges and revolutionize the restaurant industry. All right, I will see you next time, and I hope to connect with you at SaaStr. Thursday, we'll actually be live from SaaStr. And so if you're there, look me up, connect with me in the app, message me. Let's get together. And as always, enjoy the journey. See you there.
Thanks for listening to SaaS Fuel. Full show notes for each episode, which includes a summary, key takeaways, quotes, and any resources mentioned, are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're enjoying the content and getting value from these episodes, please leave us a rating and review at ratethispodcast.com/SaaSFuel. We'll be sure to read these out on future episodes.